Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Planet Tyro. It has been a while since I've been here with my buddy, the Catface Killer. Welcome back, son.
It's good to be back, man.
It's good to hear your voice. Hey, you know what? If you're listening or watching on YouTube or however you're listening on the podcast or what have you, you're looking at the title and thinking, Westworld? They're going to talk about Westworld? That show was on a year ago. You know, it's not the thing everyone's talking about. Everyone's talking about your favorite show, oh boy, the Game of Goddamn Thrones. So why are we talking about Westworld? Well, there's a couple reasons.
Well, we can't talk about Game of Thrones yet because I'm going to binge it. Same thing with fucking Walking Dead. I mean, I wasn't really impressed with the way that last season ended, but I don't want to do it episode by episode this season.
Sure. Well, you know, Westworld is still in the current conversation because they released a trailer for season 2, which I don't think you checked out, but it was just 30 seconds of, you know, a bit of the aftermath. Nothing spoilery. It's not starting until 2018. Also, for you guys listening in, I want you to know this is my favorite type of sci-fi, and because season 2 is airing next year anyway, I think it's actually a decent time to talk about it because it is a show I want us to put in our TV playlist collection of discussions. You've never seen Battlestar Galactica, have you?
I do remember listening to your recording and it sounded pretty good, but no, I've never seen it before.
Yeah, Battlestar Galactica, even The Matrix, they all have... It covers the same kind of thing Westworld does, and for... Guys, I should say this right off the bat. Spoiler discussion. I'm sorry, this isn't... Most people have seen Westworld by now. Spoiler discussion. But to make this discussion a little bit more interesting... Me and the old boy, or the Catface, I know you're not being called old boy anymore, the Catface Killer, we want to actually talk about the movies it's based off as well. Westworld is actually based off a series of movies released in the early 1970s. The first one was called Westworld, the second one was called Future World, and there was another series after that in the 80s called Beyond Westworld, which was horrible, and I'll speak about that. Now, full disclosure, Catface himself said he only saw the first one, the first original Westworld movie, for us to talk about together, but I'll talk about the Future World one as well. Honestly, it's not compulsory. We could have done this review without talking about the movies, but it's interesting to see where they adapted this from, and obviously it's going to be interesting to see how they stack up against each other. It's probably not fair to put them against each other, but it's always fun to see where the new writers got the inspirations of the original source material, and we do that quite a lot here on Planet Tyro.
Sounds about right.
Alright, so just because we have to cover it, Westworld is basically a franchise of movies that was based in the early 70s, as I said before. I think the first movie was in 1973, 10 years before I was even born. Second one, Future, was made in 1986. And HBO have done this series called Westworld, and that was released in 2016. So that was exactly, 30 years after the original? 30 years-ish after the original, or 40 years. 40 years actually. 70 to 20. Yeah, 40 damn years. Yeah. It
was quite a leap. I mean, from the movie, at least just from the first movie, to be able to crack out a whole season, what a season is, like 10 episodes now, but that's still like off of an hour and a half idea. I think that was kind of amazing in and of itself.
Well, you've seen the movie, and let me tell you how we're going to do this. I'm going to jump between the movie and the series together because I think it's easier for me to talk that way. And the first thing, because I want to ask you a series of questions, it's always more interesting when I do this in an interview type way because we can bounce off the answers that I've prepared off the questions. So first of all, after watching the movie, could you see this being a series? Just off that, would you think this has potential to be a series? Can you see where HBO thought this is a good one for us to put all this money and energy behind it?
With the right type of creative mind, yes, but I would say not likely. I could see it being possible now with the last 2 or 3 years of television, but if you were to ask me this 5 or 6 years ago towards the beginning of our project, I've been like, hell no, I would have never been able to see that.
Okay, well, let's cut straight to the chase. How did you feel about the original movie after you saw it?
I know I'm a cat and everything, I have a low attention span, but it was really hard for me to watch. Like, it was a really neat idea. One of the differences between the movie and the TV series is the movie is more like they show a lot of how do I put this? Like the way that the Westworld runs is much more like a staged play and it is in the TV series too. Don't get me wrong, but it's literally like, pause these guys. Okay, they're coming now. Now start doing all your shit. Whereas like in the TV series, they thought beyond that at this point. You know, with technology advancing everything and everything, but everybody has like an auto script, and they just do their own thing when they're not being interacted with. And it's like,
I know what you're saying. They're saying that you can actually see the strings being pulled more in the movie, whereas in this recent TV series, everything seems a little bit more natural because they program it in, and it just seems. It seems more staged. You said that before, but it seems more staged in this original movie.
Okay, maybe I'm not explaining it right. I think it's probably more of an accurate way to say it is like in the movie, it feels like it shows more of the behind the scenes stuff where the guys are saying, you know, do this, make sure this is happening inside of the park instead of just showing inside of the park like in the TV show. It could be time constraints too. I mean, like the movie is at max. I don't know. I don't even think it was 90 minutes. Whereas the TV show, you know, it's like 10 episodes, and they're long episodes.
Let's just dive straight into the movie. Let's just get the movie out of the way since we're already here. Hey man, the movie is obviously a product of its time. It's got that 70s glare to it. I thought the movie was hella dated but hella charming. And the one thing I found really fun about the movie is that because at the time of the movie was made in the 70s, you know, a lot of Western movies was made in Hollywood. So it was interesting seeing them making a futuristic Western movie at the time where Hollywood was making a lot of Westerns anyway, or maybe more in the 60s, but it was just, I just thought it looked, can I say it looked more Western? It looked more Hollywood Western than Westworld that looks more realistic Western. Bottom line is, if I'm confused anyone, what I'm saying was, I like to see a difference. And even though the computers are terrible, they were all tape machines and the computers were big. And
oh man, and like the whole wall panels of just random flashing lights.
It was so corny, but that was another fascinating part about it, because we was getting a glimpse into the past of what they thought the future would be like. And it was so corny, but it was earnest, and they took it seriously. And to be honest with you, when I was young and I saw movies like that, this was pre-Star Wars as well, that was kind of like, obviously Westworld is a very kind of negative version of the future, like, you know, 2001: A Space Odyssey, computers will take over, but it was scary. And I remember seeing this, like, yeah, I remember when I was young, I used to see these cheap sci-fi movies and they used to scare me. And honestly, I just thought it was a really nice throwback. And conceptually, same question I asked you, I could see a lot of potential here. And for an hour-and-a-half movie, I think it's decent. I was like, I wasn't bored. I thought, I actually had a grin on my face, because I thought, this is hella corny, but I actually like what they're doing with it, and it's a really interesting idea.
I definitely thought it was an interesting idea, and I can see why they picked up the idea now to make it into a TV series,
Sure.
But it was hard for me to watch, man. Like, I did manage to watch it, which is more than I could say about some of the other stuff we tried out, but it was tough.
Yeah, was it just too dated for you, or was it just the characters? Or I'm just more interested because, you know, I'm gonna ask for a recommendation. Like, would you refer someone to check this out for the series? So I really want to know what it was about the series that just made it so boring for you. The movie that made it so boring for you.
You know, I'm unsure. I think it's just a product of its time versus what I find I like in my viewer experience of stories now. Especially TV shows or visual ones. Just like, you talk about like characters, the characters weren't really fleshed out. They're very kind of two-dimensional cardboard cutouts.
Sure.
Versus like in the TV show, even some of the minor characters, at least over the course of the story, develop into fairly complex sort of, you know, characters and stuff. Like they aren't, like, there's one, like his friend, for example, in the movie, the guy's friend is just kind of he's a little bit of a smarmy jokester. He has like a couple, like, one or two liners in there, but that's kind of it to him. And then he's out of the movie, like, when things start picking up.
Yeah.
And it's just because, like, kind of a one-man show, really. Even though in the beginning it's like you're shown, I think, like 4 or 5 different characters that are going into the parks, and there's multiple parks in the movie. So, but it really only focuses on one guy. It's like a kind of a shotgun, scatterbrain, meandering all over the place. a little bit of this, a little bit of that sort of storytelling versus like when you're Westworld on 2016, it's very focused. It's like, these are the ideas we want to explore. This is a sort of storytelling method we want to use. These are characters that are going to serve these purposes. They're going to develop in these ways. It's very clear thought, I think, versus the movie, which might have just been kind of winged, it feels like to me.
I can agree with that to a point. What I will say, and because we're going to jump to the series now, for the bulk of this discussion, we're going to focus on the series. But what I will say is if you notice from the movie, and even the second one, they actually trimmed it down because they only took one element of the movie, which is Westworld, where in the movie, there's two other fantasy resorts on there as well, which is Medieval World and, what was the other one? Medieval World.
Rome.
And, yeah, Rome World. So I thought it was interesting and it was sensible. Obviously, it would have cost a hell of a lot of money for them to do all three worlds in the series. So, but let's get back to that in a minute because I want to talk about, well, I'll get back to the movies. Let's focus on the main event. Let's talk about the series now. Let me put me aside. I want to talk about you first. You hadn't watched the series for a year after its announcement. Now, at the time it was airing, did you hear the hype about how great the show was and all that stuff? How? Because I don't know, were you averse to this show? What made you wait so long to check out the show?
I didn't know the show existed until you asked me to watch it. I mean,
come on.
I never heard anybody talk about this before, dude. I'm not like you where I look into these things. I'm just like,
come on, man. You watch Game of Thrones on HBO. It's a HBO show. I mean, you didn't see some ads. I mean, you know, I know what you're gonna ask.
Dude, yeah, of course I didn't see any ads because I stream it.
Yeah, but still, I mean, are you an HBO fan?
I do like a lot of HBO stuff.
Your favorite show? It was a HBO show.
It was. I've liked a lot of HBO shows, but again, the first thing is I don't watch it on TV. So like part of the reason why I stream is to get away from commercials.
Sure.
So the other thing is I'm not like you where I like look into what other people are checking out and stuff. It's either I hear it from word of mouth or somebody's like Facebook feed or something, or you tell me, hey, I want you to check this out, and then I go check it out.
Fair enough. I just wanted, because this show, and the reason why I asked for listeners out there, this is one of the most praised shows in recent years. It's been mass awards, mass Golden Globes. It's just won so many accolades, and everyone involved from the high caliber actors from movies, and we'll get into that and stuff. But I'm surprised you didn't even hear from your friends or family. Like, no one you had known had watched the series, is basically what you're saying. No one has spoken about it except for me.
If they had watched it, they never mentioned it. So
fair
yeah,
enough.
I only heard about it from you.
All right, that's shocking. So a year later, you watch Westworld now, and let's just get this out of the way. What did you think of the series, the 2016 series?
I loved it. You know, I think if it won like a bunch of awards, were nominated for them, deserved it. You know, I like to give my rating pretty fast out the gate. Low first class for me. You mentioned before I started watching it that they had announced the second season. I'm really looking forward to the second season, although I'm hesitant because of where the storyline was about. It could be very generic.
Sure.
You know, you went from like a great idea that nobody had ever really done before other than those movies that's based off of anyways, to it potentially could be like a million other stories that have been done over and over and over again. That's in the movie theaters every fucking year.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about the story itself. Let's talk about the whole idea behind Westworld. So I have to go over it just a little bit so we can actually dig to what we think about it. So the whole idea is that Westworld is just basically this resort that is very expensive. It's for people to get away and live out the fantasies of living in the Wild West. It's very expensive. I think they said it's like, is it $1,000 a day or some shit like that? It's really expensive.
They said that in the movie. So if you were trying to like say, I don't think they ever put a price tag in the 2016 one, but if you were to translate that to 2016, that's a lot of fucking money.
But to be fair, just looking at the people that are actually going there, it's safe to assume this is a high ticket kind of vacation. It's not for your average Joe. It's not a trip to fucking Disneyland.
No, this is for like business executives and shit.
Yeah. So the idea of having this resort, you know, where you can go and live these fantasies with these super advanced androids, is very interesting. I thought, if you watch shows like Black Mirror and some other sci-fi shows, they've touched on this. Even Battlestar Galactica, which again has so much in common with this show, which I really like. But conceptually, I like the fact they covered similar things in a different setting. Now, there's a lot of criticism behind the show. Believe it or not, there's a lot of praise and a lot of criticism because, again, people are kind of fed up with this kind of not nihilistic, but this negative attitude towards technology and how it's going to take us over. You know, this whole AI is going to destroy our lives thing over and over and over again. And I don't think it's a major spoiler. You can kind of see, even if you can kind of see that's where they're going with this idea.
I don't know if I agree with that by the end of the story, but go ahead.
And you know what? I just, at the time, it's hard because now I feel like I'm jumping between the movie and the series. I always thought, from what I heard, Westworld is another story of robot rebellion, The Matrix, Battlestar Galactica, so many. Even the iRobot movie. It's just whenever you get humanoid robots, they always rebel. It always seems like the same way, and people kind of get fed up with that idea. Now with this show, I like the fact that it's got, the question is more to do with sentience and what is living, what is life, and that appreciation for life, whether you're an android or a person, the mixture between the two, what is love, feelings, emotions. I like that depth. And again, I hate to keep bringing this up. They bring this up in Battlestar Galactica. It was a core part of it, and this show does it just as well. And I think that's a big reason why the show resonates with people, because at the core, it's asking really deep questions about the essence of life. Maybe I'm looking too much into it, but I feel that that's what it's really getting into.
No, I don't feel like you're looking too into it either. I think this is a very existential.
That's it.
Existential and philosophical story.
Yeah.
And it's ultimately about humanity. It's not about robot rebellion. It's not about like the machines rising up against us. Ultimately, like the idea that I don't even know if you want to call him the antagonist, but because it's kind of a gray area who the antagonist is, because there's multiple storylines running in,
and the protagonist both. I would say
over time, yeah. So like the main guy is like, he realizes a mistake he made, and that the robots have the potential to be more human than the human customers that are coming to the park, and there's only one way to free them. So that's the method he uses, but it's not because he wants them to rise up against them. It's because he wants them to have their humanity.
I agree, and well, we'll get back to the story in a moment. Let's talk about the actors and the characters, man. You know what? As soon as I heard Anthony Hopkins was helming this, I was so excited. I was like, wow. And you know, people were very skeptical, like, Anthony Hopkins doing TV. I mean, it's becoming more popular now, especially for HBO, that they're bringing, you know, Hollywood actors. It's a different time. People say this is the golden age of television, where there's not a distinction that if I'm an actor, I don't do television. Now that's not at all. It's all about great storytelling. And for Anthony Hopkins to take this on immediately, that gave the series a whole new level of legitimacy, as well as Tandy Newton and a whole bunch of other actors in here. And I just want to say, man, you hit the nail on the head. Anthony Hopkins, antagonist, protagonist, as the show evolves, as the show goes on through its 10-season run, his character, I mean, we spoke about Hannibal. We spoke about Hannibal movie series before, and how he just revels in that character, Hannibal Lecter. Seeing him in this role again, just his gravitas, and he just shows every level of every side of an actor. Again, at his age, his career at this point, you think he'd done it all. He could just lay it on his laurels, on his past victories, on his past credits, and this is another masterpiece for Anthony Hopkins. I was blown away by his performance.
First of all, you address him as Sir Anthony Hopkins. Thank you. he was knighted in your own country, if I'm not mistaken.
That Sir shit is just is ridiculous. You can get Sir'd for anything by now. That's gone off the wall. Don't even get me started.
You can also call him Maestro, as he's written his own opera, or not operas. He's written his own God, what are they called? Like the classical pieces.
I didn't know that, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah, he's written his own opus, or whatever you want to call it, before too. So very multi-talented. I always respect him a lot. You asked me before who are my favorite actors. He's always towards the top of the list. Just like I've seen a lot of other actors that are pretty good. I've seen other things like the guy who played Bernard was in Boardwalk Empire, as well as the Hunger Game movies.
One of the antagonists. Well done, good pick. Yeah, correct.
Well, see, again, we come to the word antagonist. It's like the first thing is when I think about the story.
Boardwalk Empire, he was one of the antagonists. I mean.
Oh yeah, he was one of the antagonists of Boardwalk Empire. In this story, it's not really clear, because it's not even really clear who is the lead actor.
Yeah.
Because of the way the storyline is told. Like,
that's what I said.
There's a lot of characters that fit in that role.
Yeah.
But because the story is told over a long period of time, and it's not really made clear until like halfway through it that it's jumping around in time.
Yeah.
It becomes kind of hard to tell who is actually the main character in this story. But that's not important because unlike something like Battle Angel Alita, where it's a character's journey, there are characters journeying in this storyline. But it's, again, like I said, it's ultimately about humanity and its definition and its interpretation through the eyes of multiple characters. I really like the story a lot. I do. I like the method of storytelling. I told you before, I like
more about Anthony Hopkins because that's what you were talking about. It's more about him.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think you can make a strong argument that he's the protagonist as well as antagonist of the story, of the central character of it. But the way that it's told, he might not be. I mean, like, in the end, like, especially they're going into a second season, he does exit the story towards the end of this, towards the end. So is he? I don't know. I mean, I love Anthony Hopkins.
I'm just asking you more of how you felt about his performance. I know you love him, but in this particular role, in
this performance, he plays the aged mastermind and creator who both seems to love his creations but treat them as just that throughout the story, throughout most of the story anyways. And he plays it very well. He's not like I think that sort of role can be played many different ways, but he chose to play the one that is more subtle, more subdued. And I think that's a harder thing to do and do well than somebody that injects more high energy into that sort of role. You know what I mean? Like, it's harder to be softer in acting than it is, because everybody can cry and they can scream, they can be angry.
Yeah.
But to do all the other smaller stuff is very difficult, so he does it very well.
Yeah, and he's got that nuance there. He's got that nuance where in the beginning I was like, this guy, he just came off to me in the beginning as a mastermind villain. I was like, this is why he made Hannibal such a riveting character, because his performance with this guy, just like, I can't remember his Wayland. Is his name Wayland in Westworld? I forgot his name.
Ford.
Well, anyway, as the creator of Westworld, in the beginning, he just seems kind of heartless and manipulative. But that performance, which I'll keep going to, is just kills it. And by the end, like you said, it's a subtle turn, or there's a more. I don't have to call it a turn or a reveal, but when you really, well, by the end, you understand where he's coming from, and there's even a revelation. By the time you finish the series, you feel like even if you watched it again, his performance doesn't portray his character, because some actors in series, they have to change their character, or when they reveal, it doesn't feel consistent. But if you go back and watch Westworld again, you could see the wheels turning in his head even from the beginning, and that's why I think Anthony Hopkins' performance is particularly noteworthy in this series.
His acting is backwards compatible for the story, and that's something that's hard to do. You're right. Like, a lot of times, especially because there's like multiple directors and stuff, which I don't know if that was the case with this story or not, but when you look back at it after you finish the story and see how he's acting, like you said, it's consistent. It makes sense for where it ends up. I don't know if anybody else could have pulled it off as well as him.
Hey, it was excellent, and let's not spend the whole podcast on him. Let's get to someone who people do consider the antagonist for most of the series, Ed Harris. Now,
oh shit,
he's someone, as soon as you see him, he just seems so sinister. But again, by the end, there's a nuance to his character that he comes off as more of a selfish character, more than an outright villain. So by the end, I thought to myself, you still an asshole, but you were on your own journey. Like, throughout, he was on a very selfish, and even though they tried to show the reason for his character, he didn't start out that way. The way he starts in the beginning, it seems like he's just a fucking maniacal, crazy guy, but through this series, you get to see how he became that, which is understandable, but he still comes off as a selfish character. Again, though, great acting. Love to see him in here. He was fantastic. I like to call him the Man in Black, because
I prefer to call him the Man in Black too.
Yeah, because he just has that aura about him, and yeah, he was great.
He was. I actually liked his story a lot, and I think his story kind of ties in everything else to it being focused on humanity, because he himself says many times, like, this world is about revealing your true character. It's a world about humanity, in other words. It's about finding yourself. It's about finding humanity. And his entire long journey is about finding his humanity. And he's upset at the end because his journey to find humanity was denied to him by Ford because the journey to humanity was meant for
something else.
For the dolls.
Yeah.
So for the hosts.
He did have a smile on his face right at the end though, because he liked where it was going. He was like, I like this.
He got what he wanted, but it wasn't because that's what it was. It was for him. It was just happened to be that way. Yeah. But it's like, I really did like his story a lot, and I think without it, I don't know if I would have liked Westworld as much. Like if it had cut out all the Man in Black parts, or at least his history even, and he still existed as the Man in Black only.
Yeah.
I don't know. I might have knocked it down a whole peg, man.
Yeah, I mean, if I go through every character, it's going to take a while, so I need to skim over, because those two, and Bernard, which is the black co-founder of Westworld as well, which is another fantastic character, which, again...
that's a spoiler, because that was Arnold, not Bernard.
Oh, sorry, I got the names wrong. See, I got the names wrong.
Yeah, you did.
See, well, if you haven't watched Westworld, you won't even know what I'm talking about, to be honest with you, but... Arnold, Bernard, what have you. We said it's a spoiler discussion anyway. Fantastic character. We need to move on because there's a lot to talk about. Now, I want to talk about the hosts, because the hosts are a big part of the story as well. The android characters, the actors playing them, from Tandy Newton to Cyclops and the X-Men, whose name I can't remember right now.
Cyclops works.
Yes, sorry, I just can't. To the main android girl, the blonde chick, I can't remember her name right now.
She's brunette, but you mean Dolores?
Dolores, sorry. Is she brunette? I thought she was blonde.
She was brunette, and then her star-crossed lover was Teddy.
Anyway, all the hosts, I mean, they have, you could argue and say they have some of the meatiest character acting to do in the series, because obviously their job is to serve their human guests, but they are being manipulated, they are being quote-unquote raped, they are being abused, they go through all this mental torment, they have to be reset, and just seeing it gives, as a viewer, you start to wonder if you're meant to have the emotional toll, because they're robots, why should I care? There's a series of interviews throughout the show. I wouldn't call it interviews, there's parts on the show where they're resetting the robots and they're talking to them while they're resetting them, asking them questions. You don't know how to feel, you're watching it like, this feels weird because they look human, they're sitting there naked, but they're rewiring them, they're deprogramming them, and they're programming their lives. There's a disconnect as a viewer, which again, in 2016, with the help of technology, with everything we can do with it, it makes it more immersive and more disturbing. And the actors playing these hosts in real life, doing these roles, are fucking fantastic. From again, Tyro Newton to Dolores to the guy playing Cyclops, to all that stuff. But I know you're gonna say it's a spoiler. But again, I just think the hosts have to do a lot of heavy lifting in this show, and they are fantastic as well.
They really are. I mean, like, I had a different experience, I think, than a lot of people who are gonna listen to this recording. Whereas I went into Westworld, I didn't know anything about it. I mean, other than the name Westworld, I was like, oh, okay, I guess there's a theme park where people play cowboys. So, like, I didn't know the hosts were robots at first. And then, because my girlfriend doesn't binge watch like you and I do,
yeah,
I would have to go backwards and then watch 1 or 2 episodes with her and go back, so, like, as I discovered that, and I went back, like, the first time, and I was watching them, the actors actually acted like the hosts, they were imitating people, and it's like extremely subtle if you don't know what's going on, but you can notice, like, they are very, very slightly robotic in both their dialogue, reactions, and movements, at least in the first few episodes. I think that kind of goes away over time because, like, the whole point is that, they can learn and everything and remember stuff. Yeah. But, like, in the beginning, it really did, like, when I jumped back, I was like, whoa, I didn't notice that at first. That's, like, really good acting, like, because, like, I thought they were just people. And then when I found out robots and went back and looked, I was like, it's very hard to see it, but you can see it, and I think that was like a really high level of acting that's really neat.
Yeah, funny enough, when I was listening to you, you reminded me there was an anime called Time of Eve that was about androids relating with humans, and it was very popular. Even got a Kickstarter where they made it. It was I think it was a mini series. Then they didn't put it on Kickstarter. They made it into a movie. It got an English dub. I probably recommend it to you because it's worth checking out. But again, Westworld is a lot more deeper. But again, I love how they covered this, and doing it in this time, 2016, where, to be honest with you, with the advancements in AI, with technology, with the internet, as we get closer and closer to this with VR and, you know, augmented reality as well with your Pokemon Go and whatnot, we get closer and closer to this time. It seems less ridiculous than it does than probably when they did the Westworld movie back in the early 1970s. So when I'm watching this, and I think it's time to talk about the aesthetics of the show, how it looks. You know, we spoke about, I don't think I did the Deadwood review with you. We just spoke about it off mic. I did that one on my own. But I felt like I was watching Deadwood. I mean, it's so authentic. It just looks real. But here's the thing about Westerns. I'm so used to a Hollywood movie Western that when I see this, it kind of looks too real. It's like, I wonder if this is what it would really look like in the time. Because I'm used to seeing the old Westworld movie as a real Western, and this feels more like, it feels more like a play to me. I don't know why. I just couldn't really get my head around it because I'm just not used to seeing a Western done in 2016. Even in the movie, I don't remember the last time I saw a Western movie done in the last 10 years. So when I see it with this level of quality, it's weird. It kind of took me off. I'm like, it's hard for me to actually believe this is what it looks like. And if you add to that, it's got science fiction mixed in there anyway, where they are robots and they are, you know, you can see people with hazmat suits coming on. It was a weird level of de-immersion for me, which I probably won't make any sense to you, but I thought I'd bring it up.
It's like a play within a play, and that's probably where you're getting a little hung up.
Yeah.
Because, like, ultimately, the people running Westworld are orchestrating a play, and then when you're watching the TV show, the TV shows are plays. That's what a TV show and a movie is. It's a play.
Yeah.
So you're having a play within a play, and it's kind of like blowing your mind.
Yeah, and I just can't. I said, is this what it's really like? But then they keep on taking you out of it because they are robots, because they're doing all this stuff, and it's like, this is a fantasy, which is really cool because that's the whole point. It's like, here's your fantasy, but it's not real, but you know that, but then it gets real. So it's a complete mindfuck. And again, it's only 10 episodes, but they work that in so well. And it looks gorgeous. And I know you can tell this is a bloody expensive show to make. That's why it's taken 2 years for them to do season 2, because it's so expensive from the scene. They actually, you can tell they shot it in the, I didn't get the location, but you can see they actually shot it in the mountains. There's so many times they're going out, they're riding in the desert, riding in the mountains. They could tell attention to detail was not missed in this show, and I love that. But again,
no, this was not a green screen show. I mean, when they're not inside Westworld, it's a green screen show. But when they're inside the park, you're right. You know, that's like real topography and everything.
But for all you know, they could have been using the sets from Deadwood because it's a HBO show.
Yeah, I mean, if they did a good job.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that because Deadwood looks great as well. I'm just saying that HBO did Deadwood, they do this show, but putting the Western side aside, even the stuff they got in the future, when you see the offices, you don't really see the world, the real world outside, but seeing the inside of the Westworld, behind the scenes, the studios, the places where they make the dolls, whatever they call them. It looks really clinical. It's kind of scary. I mean, there's this one place they have in the bottom where they got all these unused or recycled. They're just standing there in some dark pit basement shit.
That's after they've been deactivated by being lobotomized.
Yeah, the decommissioned basement. Let's just call it that. The decommissioned basement. It's scary as hell.
It's pretty fucking freaky, yeah. I mean, like, yeah, they go in there a few times too, you know, in various lighting. And in all lighting situations, it's pretty creepy.
Yeah, I mean, because, you know, they're real actors standing there naked. You know, you can say they're robots, but you know these are like 50 actors in a basement standing there naked, not moving. And you got these guys walking around like they're non-existent. It's just really disturbing. And it's like you said in the beginning, Catface, it's like, we really are at the perfect point to do the show, but it's just so disturbing. But it's such a good thinking piece. And let's get back to some of the more questionable things that I want to mention. So, like I said, the controversy with the show is just that people just think it's a bit played out, especially in the end, where it does turn into this kind of, I don't just want to call it a simple revolt, but the whole point, which again is the big reveal, is that the creators come to realize through their own disagreement that these things they've created do deserve more than the life they've created for them, just to be playthings for humans. and it does turn to the end into this kind of revolution, and the people are kind of disappointed. Even you said this, that, you know, this could end up going in a generic way. And when I got to the end of season 1, I was like, you know what, man, the show could end here and I'll be satisfied, because they touch on so many layers of the human psyche and right and wrong and discovering yourself. And as you said, what's the word you said? The word you can't even pronounce.
Oh, existential?
Yeah, existentialism. You know, that's such a big part of the show. It's like by the end, when they got to this revolt thing, I'm like, I don't really want to see the rest, because, you know, it's going to turn into the world was, you know, it's going to turn into a rebellion. They're going to kill everyone and decide what they're going to do, take over the whole park, and then they're going to reach out to the real world. So I want to talk about future world after this, but I want to get your thoughts on that, the direction where it's going, before we talk about future world.
Just like I said, a lot of hesitation. I would have been very happy if that was the end. Like that, you know, the story ended there, like you said.
Yeah.
But to continue it from that point, you only have 2 ways to go, because one of the storylines of Westworld, the TV show, is that one of the hosts, one of the robots, is trying to escape. She actually...
Yeah, Tandy Newton's her name.
Tandy Newton's trying to escape, and she actually manages to escape, but because she has to wait like 15 minutes before her shuttle bus or whatever, you know, her bullet train takes off, she changes her mind and she runs back at the last moment. Yeah. So like, if she had stayed on that train, I'd have a little bit more hope. But because she, you know, she's running back, I don't want this prison break story where she's like constantly trying to break out, break back in, break out, break back in.
No,
you know what I mean?
No. It's not going to be that. I mean, even go on. I'll let you finish. Go ahead.
No, so I mean that's one of the things that I'm hesitant about. The other thing is like the robots rebel at the very end. I mean, we already mentioned this. It's not really a spoiler in the podcast at this point, but. Do we really want to see them go around, rally up the rest of the robots and rebel, or what exactly are they going to do? Are they going to stay in there and they're going to try to teach other robots to be humans after they wiped out all the guys running Westworld? I mean, there's some things they could do that I'd be interested in seeing, but I don't want to see these handful of guys have humanity.
The problem with that is exactly what Battlestar Galactica is about. Battlestar Galactica, the whole plot of Battlestar Galactica is that the sentient robots they made turn on them, and they basically, you know, it's the same thing as the Matrix. The inventions turn against the masters and enslave them. So we've seen that idea. That's what if you're going in that direction, we've seen it before. You know, the robots find out we're smarter. We don't misuse people. We have more appreciation for life. We're better than you. We're going to be better than our masters. I mean, I feel like I don't mind seeing that to a point. But unless they're going to go in a new interesting direction, I'm going to feel like they're treading ground done in other series. Because again, this robot rebellion thing has been done to death. And although, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing one more season of Westworld just so I could see them get to that point. But once they're out of the park and they're in real world, I don't think I'll be interested at that point. To see how they organize and if they decide that they want to be, well, if you guys don't know the backstory of the Matrix a little bit, and I'm only bringing this up because it's relevant, when the robots became free, in the world of the Matrix, the robots didn't enslave the humans straight away. That's not what happened. The robots wanted their own little piece of land, and they just wanted their own rights, and humans went after them, basically, and truly persecuted them like some Nazi shit. And then that's when the robots turned on them and enslaved the humans. Now, I thought that was interesting, and I actually would have wanted to see that movie, where robots just wanted their own piece of the pie, wanted to just become one with humans, and then humans just tell, fuck you, we're better than you, we created you, we own you, and then it turns into a world war. I wouldn't mind seeing that movie. If that's what Westworld is going, that could be interesting. But if it's just going to be this, we're better than humans now, let's slowly manipulate and, you know, become these sleeper agents and replace them and take over the world, that isn't interesting to me personally.
Yeah, no thank you. Big cross on that. And
unfortunately, that is where some of the older content of Westworld went. There was actually, this isn't the first Westworld series. In the 80s, there was a cancelled Westworld series called Beyond Westworld, and that was the plot. Basically, they were starting to replace humans. They were trying to take over the government, and it got cancelled because people fucking hated it. So I don't want to see that, and because that got cancelled. But again, they might not go in that direction. But jumping back to Future World. Actually, this is what I would like, because Future World, the movie that you didn't watch, Future World was, again, at the end of the Westworld movie, you know, just like this series, basically, Westworld went crazy, but instead of the robots getting free, apparently, the company that owns Westworld's idea, they decided they closed down Westworld and they just opened up a new world called Future World, which is basically some space world, basically just some space race crap. And then they still got Rome World and Medieval World, and they just focused on those three. So instead of just going back to Westworld, they just went onto different types. If Westworld jumped ship and went from Westworld to Rome World instead, I don't know. I don't think they can.
Well,
do that.
They wouldn't do that. I mean, one of the things I really liked about this story is there's a lot of foreshadowing and there's a lot of mental stimulation on the viewer's part for trying to put the pieces together. So if that's the direction they're going, it would be feudal Japan world. That's what they had hinted at the very last episode.
Cool. I don't know, because the trailer we saw had nothing to do with, it just showed that the robots were inside the science parts of they were just, it was, to be honest, it looked like it just picks up straight from where the series, no time jump, they're just continuing straight away where they left off, where there's a bit of chaos and, you know, the inmates have taken over the asylum kind of thing. I know we're focusing a lot on the future of the series, but again, I really saw what I really liked in the series. I'm happy enough to let it be. I really am. And they've already decided, I think they would have already put in the Rome World, Medieval World thing, or said that the company was doing that. But in this franchise, this new series, they haven't mentioned that at all. This is only Westworld. So I don't think they're going to touch that at all. I think they're going to go ahead with the robot domination idea. That's what I think. And I think
no, like I said, in the very last episode, when they're inside, like the inside of Westworld Park, not the park part, but the insides, there's like a feudal Japanese themed area that's like being, if it's not set up, then they're training the hosts to be like that.
Okay.
But I don't want to see that either. You know, just to be clear, I don't want to see it either. I'm just pointing out that was in the last episode. Yeah. It was very brief, but it was there.
Well, that sounds like the Future World, the second movie, Future World. Basically, people come back to the resort after they abolish Westworld, which is probably going to happen. I actually think they're going to follow the Future World idea for a T, because in the Future World, they abolished Westworld because it was a failure, they killed people, that and the other, and they just moved on to these other parks. But what they don't realize is that the sentient robots have basically taken over, but they're just getting people in and they're cloning them. Basically, they're making sleeper agents of people. They get people to come so they can take over the earth bit by bit by bit. And I think that's exactly where they're going to go with the next season.
I really don't want to see that.
Because they've already shown that these people can actually make themselves as well and copy people. That was the Anthony Hopkins copying the Bernard character. I mean, they already can do that. So for me, I can see them going down that route. I would watch the second season regardless, but I don't know how much life. Let me ask you a question actually. How long do you think this idea, how many seasons do you think it has in it? Because I really think this is a very short-lived show. I think it should be 3 seasons max.
1. I thought it should have only been 1 season.
But since we're going past that, how far could you possibly see it go in a way that you would still watch it? I know you don't want to see anymore, but how much would it be like? How far do you think it should go past this point?
I will watch the next season regardless, but like
knowing what you know, knowing what
I know, where it ended, and you know, the assumption is that there's no skip in time. It's picking up exactly where it left off for the second season. I would say 2 seasons because, like, for me, if it wants to maintain a good story, I think the robots should fail. I mean, I think they should. Yeah. I don't know what exactly should be going on in the second season, but I don't think they should ultimately achieve their goal. I think they should fail, and that's the story of humanity for them.
Yeah.
Like Anthony Hopkins talks about humanity is about suffering. That's how you become human. So to me, that would be like a story arc of humanity to me.
Yeah, a lot of people were upset. Like you said, Tanya Newton didn't get on that train. But because she was so human and she had that, you know, the flashback to that daughter thing she had, and, you know, that brought her back in, which I thought was nice. I thought that was heartfelt. But again, I don't know, man. She's the brains. She's obviously going to be the big player in the next season, without a doubt. Her and Dolores possibly. But look, I give this show a first class. Just a solid first class. It's a great show. Great food for thought. I love the questions it's giving about existentialism, about what is being alive, and all the characters in the show, whether they're human or android or what have you, they're all on a journey of self-discovery, whether they know it or they don't. And I think the show does a great job of taking you on that journey as well. And they're doing it in a way where even they change the narrative, showing, you know, you don't even know that you're watching some parts back in time. You don't even know that till near the end of the series. You don't even know who's who and who's not real and that stuff. And all that mystery, it's good. It works.
I think it works very well because they do something that a lot of people don't do well, which is foreshadowing. Like, if you've watched it before and then you turn around and you rewatch it and you know what to look for, you will pick up on things and everything will be cohesive. Like, it'll actually make sense and it'll be a very good story still. I'm a big fan of show don't tell. That's like my preferred storytelling type, where you have things like the picture. The picture is a huge clue that's uncovered early on in the story, and it's shown again and again, although you have to be paying attention to pick up on it. And that's one of the things that actually helped me understand what was going on with the time jumping and stuff, because the picture ties all the storylines together basically. Because
there's the maze picture. The maze, is that what you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about the picture of the woman.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah.
The picture of the woman ties in the Man in Black story, Billy's story, Dolores' story, and in a way it actually ties in Anthony Hopkins' story as well, and Bernard's story. It ties it all together. But that's not the only type of foreshadowing thing they did. It's all throughout the entire story. If you're looking for it, you will find it. But it's told in such a good way that it's very hard to pick up on the first way through.
100%.
It really is. Yeah. And that's one of the things I think that made it a first class to me. You know, a low first class because the ending, it makes me really hesitant. But like the journey of experiencing the story itself, though, first class. I loved it. I really did.
It's a great show. And let me tell you something. Obviously, the way Anthony Hopkins leave, I thought was great because everyone's wondering, such an old actor, why would he commit to a long-running series? Well, you know why at the end, because he's not going to be in it much longer, which I think makes perfect sense. Again, like True Detective, you get these actors in, and you don't need to be long. You just leave your mark on these shows, and I fucking love it. And even the actors that are still there that didn't move on are great, and I'm looking forward to seeing them. But again, you know what? Actually, this is even a better. I should ask this a little bit before we got to this point, but you know what? Game of Thrones is ending. HBO are looking for their next show. Now, we already said we're not happy. We're not even happy with the length of this show to this point because we just don't think it's going to go in a great direction. HBO are putting a lot of money behind this show, and there's a Watchmen show coming out as well. But they are saying
the comic book guys.
Yeah, they're making the HBO commercial to be a show. So they're looking for the next Game of Thrones. I'm going to ask you this question, which I already know the answer to, because everyone's saying that they want this to be the next Game of Thrones, but this cannot be 6 fucking seasons.
No way. Like I said, to me, ideally this would have been just 1 season, and that would have been like I would have bumped up the rating to like near Hall of Fame.
If this was going to be 1 season, they would need to end it completely though. That's why I could do with 2 seasons. To be honest with you, I'm kind of there with you. This next season needs to be the end for me personally, because I unless I've got a whole new script, and to be honest with you, they're following the ideas from the movies. They're following those ideas very well, but they're just making them more interesting. And I think where those movies go are fine, but the movies don't conclude. Just like Hannibal, they don't conclude anyway. They never ended. They never went for Resolute. They never had a world war. So this HBO series could actually be a beginning and end to this whole story. I'm curious to see what they will do with this story to finish it off. Because again, I don't think it should be a long-running series like for 6 or 7 years. 2, 3 if you have to. But again, I really hope they have an end game for this idea. But people are really enjoying the food for thought. And these questions are somewhat relevant in our current culture today with technology moving forward and stuff. So I'm happy for the show. It's still a good show. I love the show. I would watch it again. I actually did watch it again to catch up on what we said. It was fine. It was an easy watch, even though you know what's going on in the background. It's a great show for HBO. I just don't think in the long run it's a long running show that needs to be on for a good number of years. I don't think it's that kind of show.
No, it's definitely not. If they want a long running show, dude, bring back Carnival. bring back Carnival. That's a story that's supposed to go over many generations.
Yeah,
Bring back fucking Carnival, dude. But this story, I mean, I'm already hesitant about 2 seasons. It would have been great 1 season, and that was it.
Yeah.
So this is not your Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I'm happy for the actors though, and I'm really happy for HBO. And again, HBO have got another winner on their hands. So, I mean, that was basically it. If I didn't, me and you are in disagreement here. The movies, I would say, are fun schlock. I wasn't bored by them. I thought it had a very 70s charm to them. I thought the first one, the one thing we didn't mention was at the end of the first one, it goes into this Terminator route.
Oh shit!
Which
Yeah,
is
I know.
just silly. And in the second one, there is some really, that character, again, he's not, well, he exits the first, well, he dies in the first movie, that Terminator character.
The Terminator? Okay, I was going to say, you mean the mustache guy or the Terminator?
No, the Terminator Western, old man Western guy. He gets killed in the first one. But in the second one, he's in his really elaborate dream sequence for one of the characters. And it is so fucking 70s and beautiful. That would be on its own as a YouTube weird advert or something. I just loved going back to the 70s and seeing some weird, crazy science fiction movie. And that is Westworld and Future World. And I would say, check it out for that. But to be honest with you, I could see why it would be boring to some people, but I still think it holds up in a very corny, fun kind of way. So I would recommend those. I would give them a high watchable for both Westworld and Future World, the movies, and the series first class. But you know, guys, use your own discretion.
Acquired taste for me, man. Like, and it might just be me. I mean, because like I tried watching, for example, the original Get Carter. Dude, I fell asleep watching that shit.
Sure.
My dad loved it. My dad is like in his mid-60s, so it just could just be me. I don't know.
Sure. I mean, some people like watching. I have a taste for older movies anyway. I mean, it depends on your taste. It really does. But either way, that was our long wait discussion for Westworld. And we'll definitely be talking about season 2 when it comes out and seeing if they follow our apprehension or if they do something more creative and surprises us. Either way, I'll be happy to talk about Westworld season 2. Again, I love this kind of science fiction, guys. I spoke in length about Battlestar Galactica. I love the Animatrix, which is the better part of the Matrix in the first movie. I love these kind of ideas, but again, I'm not one to be so scared of technology, but I don't think we're going to live to the point where we're going to see this kind of technology in our lifetimes anyway. So I
don't know. I guess I'm more fearful of technology because I can see it. I can see that being in my lifetime. You
really,
know,
this kind of level of advanced androidism, really?
Yeah, I can't. They're already working on this sort of thing in Japan. They're working on a VR world in where was it? Oh, shit, I think it was in Ohio or somewhere in the Midwest. So maybe it was Utah. So it's like the beginning stages are already here, and we're both in our mid-30s, earlier mid-30s. So it's like I can see it. I actually can see it. The flying cars, I don't know about that, but something like Westworld Park, maybe when I'm as old as the Man in Black, I can see that being possible.
Well, man, hey guys, that's it. If you see Westworld, and we know it was on a year ago and we're kind of late to the party, but again, this is a quality show, still one of the best shows I've seen in the last year or two anyway, so well worth the time. If you haven't seen Westworld... Then
wait, even better than last season of Walking Dead?
Guy, Catface, I started watching Fear, and Fear...
Oh, you started... Did they start airing it?
Yeah, it's really finished, and I'm not happy. And to be honest with you, I'm gonna be done with the whole fucking franchise. So we'll get to that discussion. But this is definitely, there's no other show in my mind that is as good in recent years as that. And again, keep it short, keep it sweet. And at the time of this recording, I haven't recorded the Defenders discussion on Netflix, so I'm gonna be very critical on that show, guys. Stay tuned for that. But again, me and Catface are going to try to catch up on shows. We got some other things in the pipeline. But again, buddy, ain't spoken to you in a while. Nice to have discussion. Thanks for coming on this one.
Yes, sir. I mean, I'm trying to cut down on my main vice, Pokemon Go. That's why I went MIA for so long.
Nah, you see, you're part of the problem. You're going to be the first one. They make a Pokemon Go world. You're going to be in there, and the Pokemon are going to take over you.
Well, first of all, they got to make the game more rewarding if they're going to get my ass in there. Because right now, it's like I've been playing for trainer battles be implemented in the game. It's a year later, they're still not in the game, and they're still fucking around adding other shit instead and messing with stuff. So
the moral of the story is, I'm trying to say, if you not be careful, one day they're gonna put you in the goddamn metal ball, and they're gonna see how you like it.
Okay, I mean, like, I am a cat, so I guess I kind of, sort of could fit in the Pokeball. I mean, like, they put really big stuff in there.
That's exactly what I was saying. So you already got the avatar. So you know you're already a Pokemon practically.
Yeah, I am. I mean, I'm not gonna act like I'm not.
No, well there you go. So Boy is part of the future, guys. If, again, leave your thoughts on the Westworld series down below, and if you have any other quality shows, because there's a lot of TV shows out there, we don't even have time to scour the internet. Let us know what shows you think we should check out in the description down below. And you know what? If it's really good, we might be doing a recording on it in the near future. But on that note, guys, thanks for watching. Give us a thumbs up if you like the discussion. Subscribe to the channel. And again, we'll see you on the next recording here on Planet Tyro for another discussion in the near future.
Actually, I do have a show I wanted to recommend you. How are you coming along with the other stuff like Billy Bat?
Well, that's manga. We'll get to that.
Well, I know, but I don't want to like overload you. Like, do you have time for another show?
Guys, stay tuned and you will find out.
All right, see you guys later.
There you go. I'm trying to sign out, asking me goddamn questions.